Hello, my family and friends. My name is John Guns. I am the Dean of the Sandwich Park School of Theology, Virginia Union University, and my brother. And I am super crazy excited today to have an alum,
Yes.
right? Someone who formerly pastored in the Richmond area. He and his lovely wife. Our banquet speaker for the 75th banquet. But the president of the New Brunswick Theological Seminary. And so, President, welcome, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's good to be here. It's good to be in thy presence. That just mercy, just speaking to me. Thank you for just being merciful with the brother trying to do the best he can.
Hey, man, listen.
Yeah.
So tell us where you are now. Tell us what you're doing, and then kind of tell us how you got there.
Yeah, man. I am at New Brunswick Theological Seminary in New Brunswick, New Jersey. It's the oldest Protestant seminary in the United States and America. I am the 12th president and the first president that is brown in any possible way and is not Dutch because it's a Reformed Church in America, Dutch seminary. How did I get here? Man, after that call on Eagle Iris Mountain back in 1985, when God called me to be a healer, a therapist, a counselor, I began training, and that training led me to get my PhD in psychology after my MDiv. After getting my PhD, I wound up being invited back to Virginia Commonwealth to be a professor. So I actually was a tenured professor of psychology there for 21 years. While doing that, my wife, Jacqueline Elise Madison McCreary, we pastored Spring Creek Baptist Church. And from 30 people when we came there to when we left there, it was blessed, and it's still doing, I think, pretty well. But Jack was involved with Lot Carey much more extensively than I was, and mentioned to Goatley then, that I was both a pastor and a therapist. And so I wound up doing mission work for Lot Carey. That mission work just changed me. I'm going particularly to Haiti. I went to Haiti. I took a class from VCU to Haiti. And we just started doing work there. And then some brothers down in New Orleans wrote a grant 10 years after Katrina to really heal themselves. And what happened was, while I'm doing that work, because Goatley asked me to go because I was pastor therapist. And we're down there teaching brothers to fish again, they built the churches, they built the community, but they hadn't taken care of the self. And so I got folk, man, spitting again, doing open mic, we just having a good time. And one of the guys on the team was on the board at New Brunswick. And I had decided in 2007 to not be a university president. I had done the training, was on the course been on the provost staff at VCU, was heading that direction, but just didn't really like it. And he said, well, but there's a seminary that I'm on the board, and we're having a transition. We need a president, and you'd be perfect. And then God just went to work. God just went to work. And so I wound up here. This is now my 8th year. I'm in my 8th year as president here. And we've had some growth. We've had some challenges. Seminary education right now is difficult. We got, as Virginia Union has done, STVU has done. I still call it STVU. I know y'all got all these other names, but y'all STVU, that's what I came out of in 86. But we got 10 years of accreditation. Man, they were under every year getting visits and ATS just on their back. And so I got the academics tight, and now I'm getting the finance tight. And it's a good place to be for me. So it brings in my academic self and my administrative self and my clinical self all get to be in one spot. I don't have to run around to 3 different places because, VCU never really embraced my being a man of faith. That was with state government, keep that over here. The church never really embraced my serious academic self in the same way. We had some things going on, but it's still a little different. And being here in the institution of higher learning about theological matters, just a different space.
That sounds like the fundraising tone right there.
Hey, Doc, we can go there, but that's a major part of what I do. Just talking to folk about it. Think critically, act justly, lead faithfully. How can you fund that? So I got my elevator speech, man. There it is.
That is amazing because I remember meeting you years ago, and you were one of the directors of youth ministry for Baptist General Convention.
Oh yeah.
So I followed you.
Yes.
Because in '92 I became the director of youth ministry for Baptist General Convention. It's amazing the legacy of BGC.
Yeah.
And yes, STVU is still the appropriate way to designate us, right?
All right.
How do you see the role of the church in light of this present context? Yeah. And then how does theological education fit into that?
Yeah. It was, I think, as I looked at that, after the 60s and the movements that happened, too many church folks started calling seminaries cemeteries. Right. And really began to look at it because they didn't want the academics in the pulpit. They wanted preaching in the pulpit. And one of the blessings of being from STVU is that we've always had the practitioner model where you're both, you're in theological education and you're a practitioner. And I think, with mainline denominations pulling away from that and being much more, liturgical and dealing with the, people really wanted the spirit there as well. And so for me, I think coming in from that vantage point, being raised Kojic as well as Baptist, now being reformed, being born into the AME.
You got a lot going on.
I got a lot going on, so like you can't leave this out. This is here, and to really understand that those of us who think theologically, the way you look at a text is just richer and is deeper. And for people, the church, I think, needs to recognize that again, that we need that ability to, I was talking to a group Saturday, and tell me if I go too far with any of my ramblings.
No, you're good. You're good.
It was on community development, right? And they're here talking about community development. And my point was, as you're here doing this, let's look at Esther. For example, Esther teaches us three things that we need to do in community development. Number one, you've got to have Vashti eyes. You got to understand the power of being courageous. That I can face patriarchy, I can face misogynistic ways of doing, I can face injustice, and so that bravery, even if it costs me my queenness, if it costs me who I am. But then you also got to have the Mordecai's, which is someone who says, "This is my daughter." Now Esther has gone through all of this to become the queen. That means you got to sleep with the king for 4 nights and make sure you please him. I mean, it's real. And now I'm saying to my daughter, you, for such a time as this, you got to say something. You can't do that unless you're concerned about justice. I mean, as a dad, girl dad, I ain't putting my daughter at risk for nothing. If I say that, it's got to be that this is about kingdom building. This is about some serious stuff. And then you got to have the love of Esther, a love that says, I'm willing to die for you. I love you that much. Not that, soft, erotic, eros love or phileo love. We talking agape, and when folks start thinking that way, even about how you develop a community CDC in your church that is based upon being courageous, being just, and being beautiful and loving, you got something different going on. So, and that's for me, that's when you bring that theological piece to the table that helps you do it differently, and also that's biblical, so which is cool.
So now I have to steal that. I'm gonna have to preach it,
Doc.
And I'm gonna give you credit the first time, and then the next time
don't even do that because it's the word.
The Spirit of the Lord spoke to me while I was having a conversation with the Lord, and somebody else was there. But
now, we all borrow extensively from one another, so that that.
But something though, I think you hit on a very valid and powerful point, because as we look at this election and we look at all of the dynamics, the prophetic voice of courage is necessary. Forget party, forget policy, just to call us to a place of accountability. How do you, as a president, balance that in light of the demands of fundraising, the demands of being true to denominational direction, the demands of respecting inclusively all students, all faculty, all staff, and then having to wrestle with the fact that every word that comes out of your mouth now is evaluated and exegeted and interpreted and whatever the case may be. How do you handle that? Because one, and I'll say this transparently, you have one of the best spirits of anybody I've ever met. I've always loved the fact that you meet no one that you don't try to encourage. That's just the nature of who you are. So how do you, for uniqueness, manage this?
It's a couple pieces. So the first piece that hit me when you said that too was coming out of Detroit. The trauma around the riots, the revolutions, the revolts in Detroit, and what it meant for my family. I'm the oldest of 7 children. My father was a pastor, and literally I remember watching when he put us in the bathtub for safety during the second revolt in Detroit in '68 after King's assassination. They blew the house up next door. And I saw physically the transformation of my dad, how he went from being this strong man to being broken. And it didn't surprise me that he wound up drinking and gambling and leaving us shortly thereafter, and I didn't know about PTSD then, but that was corrected to his service in the Korean War. I found that out later. And what happened was, being the oldest and having to walk with mom those next 10 years before I went away to college, and deal with stuff and deal with what goes on, things in my family that I embrace, where that wound up with my, family members winding being incarcerated and all of that. That's my brothers, that's my cousin, and when that happens, you don't judge. And so I really learned to not judge. My dad wrote a letter. I talk about this in my book too. My dad wrote a letter, man, in '86. We spent some time, '85, talking about his absence. And I said to him, you can be my friend. We can work on this relationship. You always be my father, but to be dad, that's going to take some work, And then that was Christmas of '85, '86, right as I'm graduating from seminary and just heading as a youth pastor, heading to Rise of Mount Zion Church, the pastor. My father dies. And, that happened. So I move on with life. I wind up, deciding to become a psychologist. I go to school. I'm now at Philadelphia Child Guidance doing my internship. And when we're moving back to Richmond for me to take the position at Virginia Commonwealth as a professor, I find a letter my father had written in '86 that I had never opened but hadn't thrown away. I opened the letter, Guns. The letter says, Micah, I'm going through therapy now. I'm getting myself together. Here's what happened to me with the Korean War. I'm like, what? And guess what I want to do now with my life? I want to be a psychologist.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, Lord, you doing something, because I'm now a psychologist, and I'm sitting going like, wait, whoa, and that piece of it, my mother's surviving cancer. There's so many pieces of what God just did. I remember once we got robbed in Detroit, and we lived off an alley, and it was some folk talk about who were in that alley who came to me and said, Micah, we know where y'all stuff is. It was folk that you look down upon typically in the community, but they came to me, and these are the folk who helped me. So I remember this, the drunk in the community used to take me down to the Detroit River, and we fished together in order to bring food back for the family. So I'm just not judging nobody, Doc. That's just kind of where that is. That's the bottom line. Now,
keep talking. And this is what's so amazing. I think that people see destinations, but they don't understand journeys.
Yeah.
And as someone who clearly, at least at this stage of your life, is sitting in an amazing destination, how do you, as a man of faith, manage the politics of
Yeah.
theological education
Yeah.
and the politics of leading a school that is not only in resurgence, but is now uniquely shaping theological education.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you manage
Man,
that?
I had in graduate school for psychology, I used to tell my colleagues there, my soul is not for sale. And it just felt like, I was just on the front line battle of people saying that psychology is not, acceptable to the church, but I'm seeing how it's helping me do the work that I'm doing. Is giving me tools that I need to help folk heal, and to walk with folk through the valley of the shadow of death. It's helping me to put that oil on them so that the bugs don't run up to their ears, get into their ears, and then cause them brain damage. I'm looking at all of this and I'm like, okay, this is where God would have me to be. And then working the 3 gigs, I've got 3 retirements now. And so, for me to move in when I'm walking with 3 retirements and my daughter had just finished Berklee College of Music, so she done, it was just a good time. It's like, okay, I can do this, but if y'all don't like me and I don't like y'all, I'm all right, and that was, my childhood prayer of Lord, just help me maintain and not be poor again. Because once you've been there, Doc, you just, government cheese is a blessing, when that's all you have. But once you had it, you don't want it every day. Taking it and making the sandwiches, man. Okay. Anyway, we won't visit that because it's gonna trigger me and I'm gonna really go crazy on this conversation. So that was a piece. The other piece was I was just qualified. And no matter what anybody say, I don't care how you look at it.
Wow.
I am a tenured professor of psychology. My wife and I had a successful pastorate. I am a therapist par excellence. That is known. I was a supervising psychologist. I was on the board with APA, Minority Fellows Program. I mean, I put out 19 African American PhDs from the school, where I was the first or the second, to come out. And I put out 19 over those years. I'm the first person to be tenured as a person of color in the psychology department at VCU. First one to get an over $1.5 million grant. That's who God has blessed me, and that's what that's what I bring. So I'm not really here because I'm doing you a favor. I'm here because this is the call, and I think realizing that this is the call, this is why I'm here. I'm good. It's like let's do this, and I never forget the first and the greatest mistake I ever made in ministry. I ain't gonna forget that. Doc, I'm pastoring this church, and Lance had just built St. Paul new building. He sends talking about and Rising Mount Zion is growing, and I have a church building committee meeting, and he sends his architect there, and I still had white man issues, at that time. And he sent his architect there. And the architect said one thing, and mother of the church was saying, no, we don't need to build no building. We need to have a education building. I'm like, well, mother, we're going to transform this one here. We're going to build an education building out of the current sanctuary and build this new one. And she just kept going. And I lost it. I was embarrassed and I was angry and I didn't know how to handle that emotion. And I took my jacket off, rolled up my sleeves and said, mother, as a pastor of this church, I silence you, And, the deacon called me that night who loved me and I loved him and said, I ain't never been so embarrassed for you and by you. And I'm like, what? And a year later, I went back to graduate school to get my doctorate. It just made sense to go on after that. I wasn't coming back, and you learn those lessons. I got so many of those where I just stupid, and I'm comfortable with stupid people, because I'm stupid too,
Yeah. You want to know what? Let me tell you what you just did for me and me personally. And I didn't plan on the dean's conversation to have an indirect moment of therapy. So let me just tell you what you just did for me. I think sometimes I was raised by Quincy Guns and Frank Guns, and they taught me, they drilled down into me the importance of humility.
Yeah.
What they didn't do, as well as now understand I wish they had done, was to balance humility with confidence in who you've become.
Yeah.
So, and my wife is very adamant, has been very adamant. John, you need to stop debasing yourself as the one who leads this school.
Yeah. Unless it's a theological technique you're using. It's called, when you actually debase the self, I only debase because it's called a one down position. I'm only going to take it because strategically I'm going to go down and help you go up so I can get something from you. Otherwise, I ain't doing it.
It's funny. I think that there is a level of confidence people have in you when the leader is confident in who they are because of their process and their journey.
Yeah.
So when you say I'm qualified, reality is that a lot of times the learning curve of leadership makes us see ourselves as unqualified when what qualifies us are the innate organic traits that we have, that God has made sense to us.
Yeah.
As we've gone through our lives.
Yeah.
So
for such a time as this, we're in the positions. For such a time as this, we're in the position that we're in. It's not, I just believe in the power of the Holy Spirit to put us where we need to be. And so we're both where we need to be. And so I'm gonna be who I be because I'm where I'm supposed to be, and that's the blessing of this thing, Doc.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah, and you can sleep better, it's enough crazy problem. We don't need to be 2:30 in the morning. I wake up every day. Lord,
So I've got one more question.
Okay.
Because I got a strange feeling you could talk for 3 hours.
It would work.
First of all, thank you, because I know that it took us a couple of days to try to figure out how to coordinate schedules and that kind of thing. Two, I'm excited, man, that you're the banquet speaker. Because remember my very first year here, I invited you. I wanted you to come home. Yes. I wanted you to come home.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And for some reason, we couldn't get it together. The book had just been released and you were doing some really exciting things. So I'm excited that you're going to be the banquet speaker for the 75th banquet.
It's an honor.
What is it that you would say to someone who is seeking to fulfill God's purpose in their life? What's your journey advice? What's the advice that comes from your own experience?
That choosing between Jesus of Nazareth and Jesus of Barabbas is a false choice.
Wow. Oh, my head just started. That is ludicrously incredible. And I don't even know what ludicrously is. That's how words get created.
Right.
That is amazing. Please.
I'm going to unpack that at the banquet.
Please. Oh, my God. Can you just say 30 more seconds about that? That's what. Or are you trying to save that for something?
I'm saving that for the banquet. That's what I'm working on.
Okay. No, that's the teaser. That's the teaser.
That's the teaser, Doc. That's the teaser. I had to drop it. You had to drop it
because he dropped the teaser. How dare him? How dare him? How dare you drop the teaser?
That's a teaser, Doc.
Now I got to get dressed up and I got to come to the banquet. I ain't even gonna ask nothing else of you. I'm done. I need you to say something to that student, to that emerging scholar about what it cost you to be the man that you are. Your story is phenomenal. But what would you say to them today?
That literally to have the dream that God has given. So it is, I've wanted to be in this position forever, but not even knowing what it is. But to get here, the recognition of pouring into people and having people pour into me is, I think, the key. Every student that walked with me, gave me so much. I remember my first student was actually probably better at being the professor than I was, and you're walking with them. I remember saying to Jacqueline, there can only be one preacher in the house, because I knew she was a better preacher than I was from the very beginning, and I'm like, and can't be but one, since I'm already ordained and licensed, it's going to be me, and stupid stuff. I mean, but walking with her, has been life transforming, and it took me 3 proposals for her to say yes, so it ain't, yeah, hallelujah. She was like, one time, Doc, she was like, you ain't even finished school yet. You ain't got no money. You ain't got no job. No. And she didn't just say no either, but, all that. I mean, choosing to delay, even having a child until, because I emotionally couldn't take it, because, I really just could not be fully prepared to not be poor before I had a child, and and that I mean, just so many things, working 3 jobs. I mean, I worked 3 jobs for so long. That's all I knew. This is the first time I've not worked more than 1 job, in 40 years, and all of that's a part of it. But each one of those pieces is why I stand like I stand now, and it's cool. I laugh because, New Spring Creek gave me my office furniture. So the furniture that I'm standing at, this desk comes from them, and so they're always with me, even though they're in Virginia. I still have the therapy chairs that I use. They're here in the building, and so I look at those every now and again. So just reminders of the pieces that are there, and I think it's really just, I open every conversation with, I give honor to God, the Creator, the Redeemer, and the Empowerer. But I didn't talk about the ancestors. And then the people who have worked with me, the elders, the teachers, I mean, the mother of that church, even though that was a terrible thing I did, that has been a pivotal lesson for me in life. And so it's embracing those lessons, as I call them, the holy pauses, the thresholds to cross over from the descent to the ascent. And, that's the piece there, for me. It's like, really, what is that I call the you matters. And that you is descending, and then before you ascend, it says he led captivity captive. He gave gifts to humankind. So after our descent, before we ascend, we got some work to do. And that's that transformative piece that's there for all of us. So.
I want to say thank you. We actually need to do this again very soon in the spring, because there are still so many other questions that I have. You all have been listening to one of the smartest and most sincere people I know, and I give God great praise for his life.
And I do want to mention, I paid him to say that, so
Don't y'all believe that? Don't y'all believe that? Don't y'all believe that? I ain't seen no cash app and I ain't seen no check. Don't y'all believe that? So listen, this is in preparation for Ellis and Jones. November 11th through the 14th. It's our 75th edition. We are the mother conference of preaching conferences. Yes. You name one around the country, and they either came from Virginia Union or they use our initial model to birth themselves. So we're inviting all of our alumni to come back, because it's 75 years. We're celebrating the Ella Mitchells and the Henry Mitchells and the Gloria Taylors. We're celebrating those,
my mother,
and Dales, those persons who shaped us and inspired us. We're celebrating our relationship with Baptist General Convention and American Baptist churches of the South. We're celebrating at the banquet those who deserve to be celebrated and remembered. Dr. Miles Jones, Dr. Edie McCreary. We are reminding ourselves of our ancestors, the voices before us, and their presence still rests on us. But also, it's going to be an amazing time. We start on the 11th with a leadership time from 2 to 5. And then Dr. James Harris, who is the distinguished professor of preaching, is going to do a lecture on 75 years of preaching through the School of Theology, and the focus is on liberation.
Yes.
On liberation. Excited that Monday night, Dr. Deborah Hagins, who is the founding dean and president of Hampton University School of Divinity, and a graduate of Samuel Crock School of Theology. And it just gets better. Maurice Watson and George Parks. Tuesday night, we are on the Word Network live, and I'm going to be preaching. Ran out of people, and they said, we ain't got nobody else, so they ran out of people. And then my brother is leading us Wednesday night as we celebrate 75 years. So you can go to experiencescvu.org right now. If you can't get there physically, we have a virtual option. We even have an option for pastors to register your church so all of your sons and daughters can watch it. They will be given the link through you to watch it. So don't miss Ellison. It's going to be amazing. President Micah McCreary, you are the guy. I love you, man. I can't wait to see you.
Love you too, brother. Takes one to know one.
And I can't wait to see you in a couple of weeks, man. Is your lovely wife coming with you?
Yes.
And now the world just got even better. Right? Really got better. So everybody, thank you so much. Share this Dean's Conversation. This is something that we're doing to just kind of make a difference in the world, and just kind of remind people of color, theologians, scholars, students, learners, teachers, instructors, whoever. This is your season. This is your opportunity. Take advantage of it. God's making a difference in the world, and you're a difference maker. Thank you so much. All right, guys.
All right.
Y'all in November. My brother, love you, man.
Love you too. Ashe.